Have you ever gone to your mailbox and found a notice for jury duty and thought, oh, I don't have time for this. I've got too many commitments at work to be able to serve on a jury. Well, you're not alone. Many Americans go find these jury notices and go, what is this? Why me? Why, I don't have time for this. You're not alone. But you know what? Jury duty is more than just a civic duty. It's more than something you have to do. But you are playing as a juror. You are the cornerstone of democracy. Today, we're going to hear from Judge Bernice Donald and Judge Ned Wall about their experience and why jurors make the difference for democracy. Welcome back to the Rule of Law, where we break complex concepts from the law into everyday understanding, so empowering you to navigate the justice system with confidence. I'm Alf Brandt, the host of Rule of Law, and we're going to be talking today about something that touches just about every American at some point. That's jury duty. We're going to answer the questions about what is jury duty? Why do we need jury duty? And what can I expect? If I get a call, what can I expect from jury duty? We're going to joining us today are Judge Bernice Donald, a retired federal appeals judge from Memphis, Tennessee, and Judge Ned Wall, a state trial court judge from Minneapolis, Minnesota. They're going to share their experiences on why jurors are democracy. Judge Donald, what advice would you give someone who's a little apprehensive about serving on a jury?
For someone who's apprehensive about serving on the jury, I would say come offer yourself a service. If you are selected, you will learn more than you ever thought you would. You will enjoy the experience of deciding a significant issue with your fellow community members. And you will leave feeling like you have really provided a useful service that you have made.
Judge Wall, what advice would you give someone who's a little concerned about coming in and serving on a jury?
Well, I have told people this before. You can do it. We are not going to ask you to do a job that you cannot do. We are as interested as you are in getting a result that is fair, correct, and accurate. So come and do it. Jump in. You'll have a fulfilling experience. But let me tell you a little bit about what we will do to make it possible for you to do a good job as a juror. First, when you come to the courthouse, we will train you as a juror. We will give you orientation information, either by presentation or by a video that tells you everything you need to know about the process. Then, if you were to come to my courtroom as one of a group of people who are being considered to serve as a juror, I will explain to the group what I'm about to do, what my role is, and what their role is. We then go through a jury selection process where I ask questions and the lawyers ask questions. This lets everybody get acquainted and lets the lawyers decide which jurors would be best for their jury. When we've chosen a jury, I once again give instructions to people. This is what you should do and how you can do a good job to be a juror. During the trial, you'll hear statements from the lawyers about what the evidence will be. You'll hear the evidence. And at the end of the trial, you'll hear arguments from the lawyers about what this all means. At the end of the trial, I provide legal instructions. So I tell you what the law is, and I tell you some more practical things about how to be a juror. Only after you've heard all those things do you go off with a group of citizens in a private setting and discuss the things that you've just heard and reach a judgment. It sounds like there's a lot to do, and it sounds like you're not prepared to do it when you're first called. But we go step by step through this process and equip you to do the job that a good citizen needs to do to be an effective juror. And I think from all of the years that I've been doing this, that we get a very good result.
And at the end of that jury service, the court is going to thank you. What I want people to know is that that thank you is genuine, sincere, and heartfelt because we know that you have done an important service, you've rendered an important service, and for that, we, the court, and we, the country, thank you.
Judge Wall, have you had any experience with a reluctant juror?
Yes, indeed, I have. In fact, it's common. Most juries have people who feel burdened by the need to take time off from their important personal and professional business. So I always ask jurors at the beginning when we are interviewing jurors for jury service, I say, how did you feel when you got this jury notice? And some people are very candid about it. I had a gentleman who was very angry, and he explained to me how he changed his mind and became a satisfied juror. I think back to that case. It was a case right at the end of COVID, and it was a 3 week trial that was ending on Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve. So people were anxious about their personal time and anxious about the work they were doing. I asked my question, how did you feel when you got the notice? And this gentleman said, I was very angry. He told me that he was the number two man at a very important corporation, one everybody on this call has heard of. And he went into the boss and said, I'm too busy to serve on a jury. I can't believe the government sent me this thing. Get me out of this. And the boss said, sit down. He said, if you won't serve on a jury, then who will serve when our company is sued? Who will serve when you are sued? We need to make sure that good people from all over the city, all over the community serve when they're called. It's your turn to do service now. It will be somebody else's later. And he just opened like a flower. He was calm and relaxed, and he explained that this was the most important thing he could be doing with those 3 weeks before Christmas. I saw everyone else on the jury kind of sit back in their seats and heave a sigh. And all of a sudden, that issue just went off our calendar, and nobody was worried about being there to serve on the jury anymore. He showed us how important it is to serve and let everybody else understand that. It was a great service to us that day.
Many people who come for jury service in response to a subpoena, they've never served before. They have in their idea that this is going to be a case where I'm going to be away from my family for weeks, if not months, that I'm going to be locked up. I won't be able to go home and sleep in my own bed at night. There are cases that are of that nature, but most jury service does not involve people being locked up overnight. And I don't mean like locked in jail, but they're not required to be away from their home, their beds for weeks at a time. Most jury service involves people coming in and serving what amounts to an ordinary work day and then going back that night to their family, not talking about the case, of course, and then coming back the next day to continue that service. And
What's
and,
the,
and
can I
when
ask,
people get that summons, they should come down and experience it.
you use some words I want to understand. Subpoena? What I thought, what's a subpoena? What's a subpoena have to do with jury duty?
Well, that's that thing they got out of the mailbox telling them they had to come down and prepare to serve on a jury. That is how the court gives people notice and commands their appearance, requires them to come and answer for jury service. So that's what the subpoena means. It's that official document that commands you to come and be available, be examined to serve on the jury. It doesn't mean that you're going to get selected, but you're required
Because
to appear.
I, I think it's worth saying too, most courts will give a reasonable effort to avoid really making people's life difficult. So if you're working on an important project that simply can't be interrupted, or if you're a student getting ready for exams, you can ask for a continuance in our court, and they'll give you 6 months and come back and do it when the crisis has passed. If you're somebody who has back trouble, I'll let you stand up a few times during the morning. If you're somebody who has to eat because you have diabetes and need to make sure that you keep your blood sugar up, we'll accommodate you. If you're a nursing mother, we'll accommodate you. All kinds of things like that that are difficult burdens for people to sit in a court for a long time hearing things, we'll make reasonable accommodations. It's really much less difficult than you realize for all kinds of reasons.
And I'm glad you use that word reasonable because courts, while people may feel that courts are unreasonable, they're not.
you're ordering them, you're giving them a command to show up for jury duty. Is that reasonable?
It is because were it not for that command, as I said, in Article 7 of our Constitution, it provides for jury service. If we didn't do that command, how would we ever enforce that Constitution? Because most people would say, oh, I'd rather do something else.
Why do we even have jury duty? I mean, you ask them to do all these extraordinary things. Okay, so it's reasonable. But you ask them to do these extraordinary things why do we even need jury duty in the first place? What's it have to do with our lives and with, you talked about democracy. What's jury duty have to do with all that?
Well, in order for the Constitution to be fulfilled and people have a jury, a trial by jury, someone has to serve on the jury. In order for me to have a jury of my peers as a citizen, there must be peers who will serve on the jury. So it is uh, one of the fundamental laws of our land, and somebody has to discharge that function.
So
And
laws,
it,
but laws
it's
are
shared service and shared sacrifice.
shared service, shared sacrifice. And that's about the law. I mean, is it relate?
It's
What's it have to do
Article
with my
7 of
right?
the Constitution. Well, you have a right to uh, Article 7 to be fulfilled in your life. I have a right to have Article 7, a jury trial. Uh, for our democracy, for our Constitution to be fulfilled, jury service is a critical component.
Well, and Alf, if I could jump in, I'd like to tell you why I think jury members are the important deciders of these things. Can't lose sight of the fact that jury members are community members. These are people who live in the community of the people who have this dispute. They don't have a stake in the case. They don't know the people, they don't know the story, they don't know the facts, they don't know the law. And precisely because they are blank slates, because they come to us fresh without knowing things or having bias, they are the best people to make these decisions. Better than experts, better than judges, better than professors would be. They come to us, and what I always tell them is I'm looking for a group who will be fair, neutral, and open minded. And I explain to them fair means you'll decide this case based entirely on the evidence you will hear in this courtroom, not based on things you know from outside here. I say neutral because you don't begin the trial leaning one way or another. And I say open minded because I say we're looking for jurors who will wait to hear all of the evidence before making a decision. When we can have community members who live in the same community with these people who are before the court, and they can come in and be fair, neutral, and open minded without having any preconceptions, we can make sure that we have fair trials, fairer than any other system that has ever been devised by humans to resolve disputes. And I'm very proud of the fact that we run a system that, for the most part, assures that.
I share that pride. And you're right, Judge Wall. If people come to the court knowing the parties and having a predisposition as to what the outcome should be, then they're not qualified to serve on that jury. Doesn't mean that they're not qualified to serve on a jury, but not that jury. They would be disqualified.
Okay. Well, let's go to those to help out those who've gotten the jury notice, and they decide that they show up, they follow the command of the court, as you say, and they walk through the courthouse doors. What can they expect once they get past security?
Well, one thing they can expect is to have a little bit of a wait. Although courts do their best to try and keep the process moving, waiting is an inherent part of that process. We are not a system where you can have it your way and where we can boast 2 million served in record time. Democracy takes time because we want to get it right. We want to do it right. And that time is not just you sitting idly by. Hopefully you're being explained the duties of jury service. You're being explained about what the courtroom is, how it's going to be configured, the process that things are going to occur in. That time is used, but it still feels a lot like waiting, and some waiting is inevitable. Our democracy tries to get it right, and democracy takes time.
And I
So,
think when we talk about practical advice, plan on waiting. So plan on doing something. Bring a book of puzzles, bring something you'd like to read, bring your knitting, bring a sweater because it might be cold where you're sitting. But plan that it may take some time before you can be given the important assignment to go ahead and help resolve people's disputes.
And you
okay,
might get to know some of the members in your community because Judge Wall said these are community members coming down. You may make some new friends.
I sometimes tease jurors about having reunions when they get together. They get to know each other.
Okay, so now jurors, the potential jurors have left the jury room and they're on their way up to the courtroom and they've been called. They might be serving. What happens then? What do they expect?
In my courthouse, and I assume many work this way, we train them. We explain what's going to happen. We have a video that we show people to explain what jury service involves and how important it is to examine your thoughts and beliefs to make sure that you are not biased, make sure that you are not having expectations that would cause you to make decisions one way or another that would not be fair. During the waiting time, our professional staff are training and preparing people for that. Then you may well be called for jury service. And if you are called for jury service, the lawyers and the judge will ask you a bunch of questions. I think that's an opportunity where you, the juror, tell your story so that the judge and the lawyers understand who you are and what you bring to the table as a possible decider of this case.
Once they get to the courtroom, the judge, first of all, will give all of them an oath. You will take an oath, raise your hand to fully participate in the questioning and answering process. The lawyers, if it's a criminal case, the prosecutor and the defense attorney. If it's a civil case, both sides will, in at least in the federal system, get an opportunity to ask you questions to determine whether you can be a fair and impartial juror. And the judge, of course, will begin that questioning. And some of the questions may be somewhat intrusive, but they're never designed to embarrass you. It's just to determine whether or not you can be a fair and impartial juror who will decide the case based on the facts and the law that's developed in the courtroom.
So fair and impartial. That sounds like something that media companies might say, or others. What is fair and impartial?
It means that you will not bring a bias to one side or the other, that you're not going to decide the case based on one lawyer because that lawyer is good looking and wears fine tailored suits, and the other lawyer may not be dressed so well. You're not going to decide the case based on the race or the gender of a particular party. You're not going to decide the case because you like the way one lawyer speaks and you don't like the way the other speaks, or because the witnesses may not appeal to you because of their personality. You're going to decide the case based on the facts. And one of the things we judges want to ensure that in the courtroom, the parties are treated equally before the court. And in my 15 and a half years experience on the federal trial court, uh, there were many occasions when I went to talk to the jury after they had rendered a verdict. They would want to know, did we get it right? As long as you applied the law that the judge gives you and you decided the facts in an unbiased way, you brought your experience, you communicated with other jurors, and you all came to a conclusion as to what the result should be, then you got it right. Uh, the judge is not going to second guess uh, the work of the jury because you have committed through your oath that you will abide by the rules, you will decide the case based on the law and the facts, and that's all we ask. But I want the listening audience to know that the judge will never pry into how the jury decides the case. Uh, if the jury wants to tell the court, when they have finished their verdict, the court might listen, but the court will never ask the jury how they decided the case, and the court will not permit, under its administration, the lawyers to go in and ask the jury how you decided this case. That is that process. We respect the jury. They do their work. And I have found, as Judge Wall has, that they work hard to try to get it right. And when they decide this case free of bias and they apply the applicable law, they get it right.
I think it's important for the listening audience to know that when the jury gets the case, when we give them the jury instructions and they go off in their jury room to discuss the case, no one is in that room with them. There are no court officers there, no officials, no lawyers. They are discussing it as a group of community members. And when they come back to court and they announce their decision, they are never called on to explain their decision or justify their decision. And they are allowed to go home then and never speak of this again if they wish. Although they can talk about it, they can talk to the lawyers and they can talk to the court if they would like to. But it is entirely their decision in a free, fair, and neutral proceeding.
Judge Donald, you've been a federal appeals court judge. It can't just a good high-priced lawyer take an appeal of a jury verdict and get the appeals court to throw out a jury verdict on some technicality?
Absolutely not. No, the verdict there is sacrosanct. It's the deliberative work of the jury. And yes, courts may look at it and decide that there was some grievous error made, but that is highly unusual. There's a process that is followed, and that jury verdict that's rendered by those fair and impartial, those neutral jurors, that is the law of that case. And the silk stocking lawyer cannot just come in and have that thrown out. That is protected. And only if a court finds that there was grievous error made by the failure of the jury to follow the law or a mistake in the law can that be tampered with.
Judge Wall, a judge in New York recently said no to a request from someone to throw out a jury verdict. And he talked a little bit about the jury and a jury verdict. Is there something we can learn from that recent situation?
Sure. I think it's a very important lesson, and I think it shows the importance of juries and the work that they do in the law. The fact that I'm a lawyer and the fact that I've been a lawyer a long time and a judge a long time doesn't put me in a position to second guess what a group of jurors did. We have spent a great deal of time cultivating a jury system that will produce a group of people who will then work in very fair, neutral, and um, strong circumstances to come to a fair decision. Our law is built on great respect for the work that juries do. We don't take the work that they do lightly. It's not overturned easily. So when a jury makes a decision, that trial judge had great respect for the work that they do. And if there are courts of appeals that look at this decision, they will have great respect for the work that those people do. We've set it up so they can do work that will be fair and accurate. And we have confidence that the work that they did was fair and accurate, as that judge did in that case.
Judge Donald, why is it important that everyone show up for jury duty?
Because our Constitution speaks to we the people, all of the people. It speaks to inclusion, but there was a time in our country when certain people could not, no matter how much they wanted to, they could not serve on the jury. They were automatically excluded because they were women, couldn't serve
Oh,
on the
come
jury.
on. That was a long time ago.
No, that was not so long ago. That was in my lifetime. My siblings who are still alive today, because they were African American and because they were women, could not serve on the jury. There was a time when people who did not own property could not serve on the jury. There were people who may have been from different ethnic groups, could not serve on the jury. We, the people, must include all of the people. And it fulfills our law when people from all diverse backgrounds, from diverse geography, from diverse religions, get to answer the call and come in as members of the community and decide those issues that are before the court. If we don't respond and serve on the jury, then the fight that those people put up, the ones who fought, bled, and died for the right to serve, we dishonor them by our failure to come forward, step forward, take the oath, and do our duty as jurors.
So, Judge Donald, I hear you seem to care about this stuff. Why are you so passionate that everyone shows up for jury duty?
I'm passionate because this is my life. This is how I live. This is where I grew up. My mother my father, hardworking individuals, hardworking parents who raised children, who obeyed the law, but the very law that said all people are included by the law, they could not serve on a jury. They could not vote. They could not enjoy the things that American citizens were given access to in our Constitution and our laws. Yes, I'm passionate. And if we don't step forward and serve now, their lives were in vain. Their fight was meaningless. The Constitution was not and cannot be fulfilled in the lives of all people unless people step forward and honor that service as jurors. That's why it's personal to me. It's personal because what they lived for, what they represented, and the denial of that representation if we exclude ourselves and don't step forward and serve on juries.
That's it for this episode of The Rule of Law. Huge thanks to Judge Donald and Judge Wall for shedding light on why jury duty is more than just a civic obligation, but it is the thing that upholds the integrity of our justice system. It's the cornerstone of democracy. If you get a jury summons, I hope today's conversation inspires you to embrace the opportunity to be part of democracy. If you found today's discussion helpful, please subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, share it with friends or family. For more insights on navigating the justice system, or if you just have a question you want to ask, please visit our website, check out the show notes for additional resources, and leave a question. We'd be happy to answer your questions. It gives us the opportunity to get right to the point. Till next time, remember, your participation in justice is a powerful act of democracy.